Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Tepe or Tepe Designs Hornet V2 or number 2. Not sure which how they say that. This knife was sent to me by the good, the great, the Nick Shabazz. Thanks so much, Nick, for sending this to me. There were a few knives that Nick sent to me. He brought this one up, and I thought, yeah, I'd really like to look at it. Now, let me point this out here real quick. This knife went on pre-order a while back, and I think they were all shipped and made it to the people who picked them up sometime in May. So by the time you're watching this video, I don't believe this is available. I'm hoping that they do this again, or they do another version of it. This is pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff that I really like here. A lot of you guys know that I owned the first one. Actually, the Hornet was sent to me as a gift. Then this is the one that was in titanium and N690. I know there's a G10 variant out there as well. That one was sent to me as a gift, and I really like that knife. But this knife, I mean, it's a lot larger, but in terms of like functionality and fit and finish, I feel like this is an upgrade all the way around. I understand I'm potentially ruining part of the review, but yeah, I just want to put that out there. You're not going to be able to get this knife outside of the secondary market, I believe, at the time of this video, but I still want to talk about this because this is interesting. Thank you so much. And by the way, I mean, I feel like, if you're aware of my channel, you're probably aware of Nick Shabazz. If you're not, or you're not subscribed, go subscribe. What Nick does is awesome, and there's a lot of great information there. Thanks so much to my generous patrons for supporting me right now. If you'd like to get your hands on these cool stickers and some other benefits, there's of course a link down in the description. Your support would mean the world to me. Let's go ahead and measure this guy. This is a big knife. Overall length of the Hornet 2 coming in at 8.8, 8.9. Whoa, that's big. Big knife. Blade length from tip to scale, we're coming in. You could call it 4 inches. Yeah, the cutting edge for sure, 4 inches. Big knife, absolutely. I like a big knife. Let's do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall. Should give you some perspective there. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue is coming in at 8 inches overall. And last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Para 3 is coming in at 7.25 inches overall. How's the action on this guy? Holy moly, the action is really good. It is completely and totally drop shut and is basically frictionless. These knives are made in China. They do an excellent job. Truthfully, I do not know who the OEM is for this, but my goodness, is this wonderful. The Hornet V1, the standard version of it, was very, very smooth, but somehow they managed to upgrade the action, right? And that's just smoothest on the inside of the pivot. In terms of the flipping action, it's wonderful. It's super snappy. It's got kind of a hook of a flipper tab, but honestly, it's knocked down enough. It just doesn't matter. If you like to push button it, push button it. If you like to light switch it, go ahead and light switch it. It doesn't really matter. The other cool thing is that the opening hole here, so I normally do it like this, right? The reverse flick. It's obviously easy to do. You can thumb flick it easily. The position of it is honestly, it's open enough. I'm going to use this finger. Well, oh, I promise it's as good as I say it is. I can use this finger and flick it. And I can also, something I never practice is using my index finger and flip it. So if you're somebody who likes to screw around with stuff like that and find different ways to fidget with it, this knife is so friendly because of the handle shape and because of the space for engagement on that little opening hole there. Oh my gosh, wonderful. However you like to deploy your knife, this thing is going to let you do it. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about the action. Let's go ahead and do the hardware check, get out my handy dandy WIA bit selector and WIA magnetic driver, 2 items that are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them down in the Amazon store that's referenced in my intros usually. Just pull up in the store and look for knife maintenance. It's also at the very bottom of my description. T8 on the pivot screw, and then I'm guessing, like everything, it is T6 on the body screws. And that appears to be the case, yes. And then the pocket clip is also going to be T6, yeah. So yeah, it's pretty minimal hardware though, you know, so you guys know my feelings on T6, don't like it, wish everything was T8 or higher, not a big deal, not a deal breaker, right? Let's move on. Carry profile, so thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3, you can see there it definitely is thicker. This is contoured though. It's like I always say, depending on the design, I will usually take some contouring if it adds thickness because it helps out with the feeling in the hand and it just feels more quality, more made for the human hand. So I appreciate that. But, you know, just so you guys know, yeah, it's definitely thicker than the Para 3. Height up against the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3, two knives that have unquestionably awkward carry profiles nobody ever complains about. You can see there it is definitely longer than both the PM2 and Para 3, and because of the height of the blade and the design, you know, including the flipper tab, honestly it's a bit taller. Best case scenario, it's exactly the same height, but I believe, you know, maximum height is definitely taller. So this is going to be a somewhat cumbersome object in the pocket for people who are not used to carrying a big knife. And yeah, I mean, seriously, this is big. It's not even going to be legal in a lot of places, so you know, check your local laws. But yeah, if you're used to carrying smaller knives or really lightweight knives, this definitely is going to be your cup of tea. For those of you who carry, you know, anywhere between medium and full-size knives or even some XL knives, you know, you might be a little more comfortable with this. I think the best thing about it, and what I was going to say is the best thing about it is honestly the weight to, you know, overall profile ratios. Blade stock thickness on this guy coming in at 157 thousandths, something like that. So it's a fairly thick blade stock, but honestly the final edge is pretty impressive. We're looking at, this is actually M390, and then we're looking at carbon fiber that, because of the design, you know, the holes in there, it's actually got a little bit of milling. And then the only steel on the inside is actually the liner lock. Weight on this guy, 4.09 ounces. That's almost an ounce an inch for a 4-inch blade. That's pretty rare. It's very rare in the knife world to see a knife with a 4-inch blade that comes in at 4 ounces. Now I understand there are definitely ones out there, but I'm saying, you know, compared to like every other large knife that's out there, you can pretty much always expect larger knives of this size to come in at a bare minimum of 4.5 ounces. A lot of them teeter over the 5-ounce mark, over the 6-ounce mark. You know, generally speaking, I expect about 5.5 ounces for a, you know, a reasonable carry weight knife in this size. But so 4.1 ounces that's fine. That's well within, you know, I like to carry knives between 4 and 6.5 ounces because I kind of like a little bit of heft and solidity. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. So let's talk about the anatomy of this knife. We have very nice looking contoured carbon fiber. This is good stuff. This is really nice. They did a great job knocking everything down. There's not a single part of this that feels angular or sharp. It's just really nice to the touch. It's really nice visually. Carbon fiber can definitely, I mean, like, you know, you look at the really flat, shiny, reflective stuff that you see. Oftentimes it's a laminate that you see on a less expensive knife, or sometimes it's actually a solid piece of carbon fiber, but there's too much polishing on the top, and you know, it's just flat and blocky, and that really looks cheap. This looks really nice. No voids or flaws or anything like that. It's quality carbon fiber. I like that. I really like the contouring, and honest, I mean, like, I like a big handle with a lot of room. I don't like to be forced into any one specific area, and this knife is very, you know, friendly in terms of, you know, if you want to move around or, you know, adjust your hand, which is often the case when you're using a knife, you're going to kind of adjust depending on what it is you're doing. And this handle shape is very friendly. You're 100% locked in. There doesn't need to be any texturing on the surface, right? It's really comfortable. This is a huge blade, and given the fact that we have what I can only describe as a triple clip point, right? I do kind of, I mean, there are times where I'm going to want to do this, and there are times where I'm going to want to do this. I like to, if I'm going to rock, you know, rock way back here, I like to have my index finger up here, because this feels like a stretch. This feels like I'm playing a very awkward note on a guitar where you really have to spider your hands out like that. This is somewhat comfortable, but to me it begs to have that forward choil. And honestly, the difference between 3.5 inches of cutting edge or 3 and 3.3 inches of cutting edge, you know, I like a big full forward choil where I can really get the meat of my index finger in there. Let's say they knock out, you know, 1/2 inch for a forward choil. You're still looking at 3.5 inches of blade. There's not many things that I can do with 4 inches of blade that I can't do with 3.5 inches of blade. So I mean, like, some designs I'm like, it doesn't need it. Just considering where I might want to rest my thumb, I would have really liked a forward choil there, but some people aren't going to like that, and that's totally fine. That's just a personal thing. We've got a nice looking sort of button head polished pivot there. Looks really great. Just the 2 body screws down there. I'm not a, you know, a body hole type of, I should word that differently. I'm not a scale hole kind of person. But some people like that, and it does reduce the weight a little bit, so okay, whatever. It doesn't change anything functionally. Flipper tab is excellent. We already covered that. The opening hole here, what's great about it is they've really knocked this area down, so you're not getting that. I hate feeling my fingernails peel off when I go to flip a knife, and that's just not the case here. Heavy chamfering, heavy, you know, all these areas have been nicely knocked down by this somewhat reflective tumbling. I like a small grain, you know, I always call that, like, I don't like a heavy, scratchy tumbling. I like it when it's kind of a fine grain tumbling, and that's definitely what we've got here. This is a really, really attractive blade, and it gets nice and thin down here behind the edge. That thing's ready to go, and there's nothing in the cutting path. That area, I mean, stuff might get caught in that hole every now and then, but for the most part, that blade is going to readily pass through whatever it is that you're cutting. Nice amount of belly. That thing's going to go to work. By the way, you can see right there on the flipper tab, it does say M390. The edge is perfect. There's no areas that seem awkward to me. I remember watching Nick's review of this, and he said, so I don't always check for this, but this is something that is worth pointing out. The sharpening choil, you know, if you consider where, like, if it were me and I was going to clamp a KME on it, it might not be at exactly the right angle to where, you know, it's going to create unevenness essentially down there at the bottom. I don't know. I mean, like, that is definitely something that matters to a lot of people. I found that, you know, knives that I use often enough to constantly be sharpening, it doesn't make all that much of a difference to me, but it will bother some people, so I suppose it is definitely worth pointing out. That might be the case there. All the more reason for it to have a full forward choil. That would have definitely solved that issue, so it is what it is. Not that big of a deal. These are numbered because they were, you know, offered through, offered through pre-order, right? So they only made a certain amount of them. Like I said, I hope they continue to make more. Tape Design's logo is pretty basic and not taking up, you know, not making the blade ugly in my opinion, so that's fine. Big emphasis on how great that opening hole is there. Absolutely. Plenty of room to engage the liner lock. There is no double clutch. It is very easy to, you know, put away. This is one of those knives where it is not uncomfortable in any way to consistently flip it. So for those fidgety folks out there, you can do this all day. Your hand will literally get fatigued before you know, it actually wears out on contact, and that's a good thing, right? You want it to be easy to deploy and disengage, so that's nice. We've got a backspacer back here that looks to also be made. Is it? Yeah, it looks to also be made out of carbon fiber. They've done that awesome thing where they put the lanyard bar back here so it's completely hidden and out of the way and not emphasized over the pocket clip. The pocket clip is not a deep carry clip, but it certainly carries deep enough. That's great. This is a pocket clip that does not work on every single design, and oftentimes when I see these really weird straight pocket clips with a little ceramic ball, I'm always like, I don't know if I like that. In this case, you know, I always judge knives on whether or not I can easily get them in and out of the pocket with one hand. Yes, you can do that, no problem. The contoured surface of the carbon fiber works really well in combination with that ceramic ball, and in this case, I think the pocket clip actually goes with the design. It's like, you know, if you look back at some of my other reviews, I get really bent out of shape about pocket clips that are like, you know, it just seems like an afterthought and they just put it on there, whatever. It's a titanium milled clip. It's got that ball bearing. It's easy to get in and out of the pocket. There's just really nothing to complain about there. I believe this is, where's my magnet? Yeah, so the liner is steel, and that's great. Don't need a steel lock bar insert if the lock bar itself is actually steel. It's locking up at something like, I don't know, 35% or so. This blade is absolutely centered, and it locks up solid. No blade play up, down, left, or right. There is some shouldering back there, and a nice size stop pin. This is just excellent. So, little things that I can nitpick. I wish it had a forward choil. It's huge. I don't really care about that, but some people are really going to care. Boy, what else can I complain about here? This is just really good, especially for people who like big knives. Now, again, the problem is and then I do this a lot on my channel, I review knives that aren't available. That's because I'm in control of the knives that I review. I review the things that I think are interesting. This knife would not have been something that would have caught my attention naturally, but when Nick brought it up, with a bunch of other knives that he had available, to send me for review, I said, yeah, I'd actually really like to look at that. I don't even think that I was aware that it was a thing, and I'm really glad that I did. Some people are going to really like this design. Some people, I feel like the blade shape is a little polarizing. Some people are going to like it. Some people are going to hate it. Functionally, this is excellent. So when you could buy these on pre-order, you could, if you paid in full, you could get them for $225, and then if you did it in 2 payments, it was like $250. I think $225 is a fair price. There's a lot of knives out there, and this is based on if it were available right now. There's a lot of knives out there in M390 and carbon fiber that are right around that price point. So it really, really, really has to be made well. Gotta have all these little things together, good ergonomics, good cutting edge, right? Good, like for me, like ease of manipulation. How easy is this thing to manipulate? How safe is it to manipulate? How easy is it to get in and out of the pocket? And checks all those boxes just amazingly well. Find one of these on the secondary market, somebody's got it up for $225, I think it's worth it. They're asking $250 to $300, something like that now. But yeah, this is absolutely a $225 knife. You can definitely get carbon fiber and M390 for less, but a lot of the knives that I'm thinking of, that are less expensive with the same materials, they just don't quite feel as good. They don't quite have the same sort of like attention to like the person who designed this, right? It was like, this needs to be made for the human hand. Somebody who wants to carry a large, lightweight cutting tool that is going to do exactly what they want to do as easy as possible with as little hang up as possible. And that's the case here. This is great. I love this. Even though it's not available, it's definitely going in my most recommended knives playlist. I think this is cool. Mr. Nick Shabazz, thank you so much once again for sending this to me. Had a lot of fun, experiencing this knife. Guys, I think that's going to be pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there, which is in front of my Instagram plug, I'm now realizing, and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.